afternoon, and welcome to our presentation on interdisciplinary research teams. My name's Jerry McMillan. I'm a Europe advisor, and our plan for the next bit is to talk about the IRT program. We'll talk about what the program's about. We'll go through details, the application process, eligibility requirements, have time for questions, and then we have the possibility at the end, if we have grad students who are looking for undergrads to fill out a team, we'll have an opportunity for you to talk to each other and maybe find some possibilities to go ahead. But just to begin, I want to do a brief introduction for people who may be unfamiliar with us. The Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, our goal, our job is to support undergraduate education or undergraduate research and creative projects at UCI. And we do this through several areas. The first area is we help you figure out how to find research opportunities. We won't find them for you, but we'll help you figure out how that process works. The second thing we do is when you are engaged in research, we have some ways of supporting you through recognition, through possible funding. And then when you are done with your research experience, we give you opportunities to present and show off what an amazing person you are and what great stuff you have done. We have our symposium in May, which is a huge event. Last year we had more than 1,200 students presenting. And we also have now our Fall Project Pitch Challenge, which we just completed on Monday, which give you the opportunity to show off how spectacular and inspiring your research is in a very short format. So all of these things we do, and our goal is to help bring undergraduates into the research community at UCI. So if you aren't yet involved in research and are interested, you can ask me afterwards. I can help you figure out good next steps to take there. But for now, focusing on IRT. Let's start by asking a very specific question. Interdisciplinary research is, by definition, research being done with multiple disciplines involved. So the example here, American Studies, okay? International relations, political science, sociology, history, anthropology, all of those things are part of American Studies. So American Studies by itself is an interdisciplinary field. But most often the term interdisciplinary talks about, okay, here's a field, we have people in both working together. So with that in mind, the IRT program is designed for people doing interdisciplinary research. As a note, the program is a collaboration between Europe and Cal IT2, and Cal IT2 has generously allowed funding for this project, and basically they are providing up to $3,000 for each team that's involved in the project. Our teams for this program require one graduate student mentor, could be more than one, but one listed as a primary mentor, and a team of 2 to 4 undergraduates working on that project under the grad student mentor. And we define interdisciplinary for this program as ideally undergrads from more than one academic school on campus. So physical science and arts, for example. Depending on the number of applications we get, we may also include teams that have undergrad students from more than one major within the same department. So for example, in physical sciences, maybe math and physics. But again, priority goes to students from multiple schools first. Our one requirement beyond that is every student, grad, undergrad, involved in the project must be currently enrolled degree-seeking UCI students through at least the end of this school year, spring 2025. So we had a question come up the other day, is it possible for a postdoc to be one of the mentors? And the answer is no. because they're not an enrolled student. So this is just for enrolled grad students mentoring enrolled undergraduate students. And I'm going to let you, I hate putting up big blocks of text and reading them to people, but basically as some examples of interdisciplinary projects that have been done in the past, I invite you to read them yourselves. I've got 3 or 4 of them, and I'll just give you time to read before clicking on. So that's a demonstration of a project with engineering and physical sciences elements. Looking at education in the humanities, here's another example. And just as a note, these are projects that have been part of this program in the past. So these are actual real-life examples. Biosci and PharmSci. And then one more. Oh, that was all of them. So moving on, next steps. You now know about this, and I'm going to stop and fill in some more stuff as we go along. But I also edited how I'm going to present before we did this. So assume we're not quite to questions yet. For the application, first thing to know is the application has to be submitted by the graduate student mentor logging in under their email address. And there are 3 specific documents you have to prepare in advance. The first one's the proposal. The proposal basically justifies why this project is worthy of support through this program. And there is a document on our website that is basically a guide to the Interdisciplinary Research Team's program. It has all sorts of information. I recommend you download it and refer to it. But basically what we look for in a proposal is, first of all, why is this project being done? What's the background on the project? What's the hole in the body of human knowledge that you're trying to resolve? And how do you intend to resolve it? So what's the background? What do you plan to do? List the responsibilities of all of the people working on the project. You've got the grad student, what are they doing? What are each of the undergraduates doing? And particularly for the nature of this program, how are the undergraduates from different backgrounds contributing differently? Include a timeline. How do you plan to go about this over the course of the project? The project or the program is designed to be done over the course of the school year. So starting at the end of fall, but particularly beginning of winter quarter, what's going to be done week by week, month by month? How is this project going to be carried out? Because you're requesting funding, what are you asking for the money for? Include a budget. And as a note on the budget, we have programs that you may be more familiar with that are directly from Europe. Our fall call for proposals, the Research Experience Fellowship, if you receive funding, we transfer the funds directly to your mentor's department. We have the Summer Undergraduate Research Program, SERP, where if you receive funding, we send you a stipend. We send the funds directly to you. This program is different from both of those. For this program, all of the funds are provided by Cal IT2, and Cal IT2 will do all of your purchasing. So if you receive an award, we send the note of the award to Cal IT2. We send you an email saying, this is how you can request them to buy stuff for you. But you have no direct control over the purchasing under this program. And an additional note on the budget, as you download and read through our guidelines, Cal IT2 have very specific requirements for things that they will and will not support. So definitely, as you're preparing the budget for your proposal, go through that list. Make sure everything you're asking for is on the approved list. And then one last note on the budget. Just as a reminder, you may request a maximum of $3,000. And one other difference between this program and the Research Experience Fellowship offered by Europe is the program that we sponsor. Because of our funding limitations, if you request up to our maximum, you will almost certainly get less because we just can't afford it. We would much rather support more students with less money than go the other direction. For this program, under the Cal IT2 funding offer, if you request up to the maximum and you receive an award, you will receive what you ask for. So there is a definite benefit if you're an undergrad to applying to receiving this program instead of the one we offer. And I have more to say on that, but I'll come back to it after I finish talking about the proposal. So include a budget in your proposal. And then to finish out the proposal, what are the references? What are the resources you're using? You're building probably on existing work. What's that work? Include a list of references. Those are the things to include in the proposal. And then just coming back, the deadline for this program is Friday, November 8 at 11:59 p.m. The deadline for Europe's Research Experience Fellowship is Friday, November 8 at 11:59 p.m. If you are an undergrad, you may apply to both. You will only receive one at most, and if the reviewers approve you for both, you will receive this one first. If you're only approved for the Research Experience Fellowship, yeah, you'd get that one instead. But this is the first one you would be awarded if you were approved for both of them. So as an undergrad, I highly recommend, if you're interested in both, apply to both, because there's no reason not to, and it gives you a chance, just to get crass, to get more money. So not a bad thing. So the proposal is the first document to include. The second document to include is personal statement. Basically, again, the proposal describes why the project is worthy of support. The personal statement describes your relationship to the project. And as a note, the proposal, you submit a single proposal for the whole project. For the personal statement, you need to do a personal statement for every student involved in the project. And then you need to combine those personal statements into a single document, grad student first, and then the undergrads. And then that document is part of the submission process. So again, the personal statement, everybody needs to do their own, but it then becomes a single document that's submitted as part of the application. There's a third document to do, and I cannot at all remember what it's called, except something like the Grad Student Mentor Agreement Form, or something like that. And what this is it formalizes the mentorship agreement between the grad student and the undergrads working under them. And it also requires a signature from the grad student's faculty mentor / advisor. So it also basically says, from the professor, I approve of the grad student spending their time doing this. So if you are a grad student, it is important to download a copy of this document, send it to your PI, your faculty mentor, make sure they know it's coming, talk about the project with them, have them sign it, and then they return it to you. You upload it as part of your application process. So the 3 documents you need before you can finish your application are the proposal, the personal statements, and this agreement form. Other than that, the proposal or the submission form is a basic form, names, email addresses, all of that stuff. The other thing to think about or to remember on our application form is as you are filling out the form, at the very bottom of the form, there are 2 buttons. The one on the left says Save as Draft. If you click Save as Draft, you can walk away, come back, and everything you've entered so far is there. We recommend you do it early and often. The other button at the bottom says Submit Application. This is the one that says, I'm done, everything's here, go for it. The caveat to this one is once you click Submit Application, you may make no further changes to your application. You are done. So, save as draft early and often, submit application, final, done, never to be touched again. Which leads me back to the deadline, November 8, 11:59 p.m., with one slight note of caution. Because we have both of these programs with a submission date of the same date, we expect a lot of network traffic. The platform on which our applications run can sometimes get overwhelmed. And we have received horror stories from students who at 11:58 and a half seeing this little circle go around on the screen for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, well past the application deadline. So I really recommend, as much as we all love to procrastinate, this is something to do at least several hours early, so that you're not the one calling us the next workday saying, it got stuck, because we have varying degrees of patience with that. We know it happens, but we always encourage you to do it early so you don't have to deal with it. And enough on that rant. At this point, that is pretty much what I have to say about the program, about the application process. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Are there U.S. citizenship requirements for this program?
There are not. U.S. citizenship requirements, as long as you are a legal student, because there are not federal funds involved with this project, you are absolutely okay as an international.
Perfect.
Other questions? And there will definitely be time for more as we move on. Yeah, go ahead.
Are there preference given to smaller groups versus larger groups, like 2 students, undergrads, as opposed to a 4-student group?
I will give you 2 answers to it. The question being preference to 2 students versus 4 students. The 2 answers to it, officially, no. And I'm not reading the proposals, so there may be an implicit bias with some people saying, frankly, I would probably lean towards higher awards to more students, simply because that's the nature of the program. But we have no preferences written into our descriptions or rules for the program. Yeah.
You mentioned how there's preference towards groups that have different interdisciplinary schools.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say one of would that benefit the group
So
overall?
would an interdisciplinary major work for the interdisciplinary school preference? Frankly, I don't know. That's something we hadn't thought of. But given that interdisciplinary is kind of its own school, I assume it would, but I don't know that. If you give me your email address, I can confirm that after I get back to tomorrow, since I go home right after this. But yeah, because that would be something valuable for all of us to know too. Because good question, thank you. Any more at this point? Yeah.
So for the faculty mentors, do they have to be knowledgeable about the research that we're proposing? Does it matter?
Do the faculty mentors have to be knowledgeable about the research you're doing?
Does their expertise have to match the proposal?
Not necessarily. Basically, the faculty mentors are overseeing the grad students. The grad students are overseeing the project. So there is a degree of familiarity just by the fact of the chain, the org chart chain. But the expectation from this program, because the grad student is mentoring it, the professor doesn't have to have a direct connection with the project. They just have to kind of know what's going on and approve of that at that level. Other questions?
I have a quick question. So for the both projects,
Mm-hmm.
we can allow like 2 to 4 undergrad students
Mm-hmm.
join the team. Both projects accept graduate students to join.
So, good question. Can graduate students also be a part of the Research Experience Fellowship? And the answer is kind of. For the Research Experience Fellowship, undergrads are the only ones who are eligible to receive funding and/or recognition for the program. However, a grad student can serve as a mentor for one of those undergrad projects, kind of, because part of that application process is a faculty mentor agreement form, much like the grad student agreement form I mentioned for this program. We require a faculty mentor for all projects under the Research Experience Fellowship. However, on the faculty mentor agreement form, there is a line to indicate a designated mentor working under that faculty. So they could list a grad student as the active mentor for that project. But then they sign off on it, and then you enter the grad student as the active mentor. I forget the actual term we use. So they serve in that role for that project. But the grad student does not receive any funding or recognition for the project, but your undergrads would as part of that. And for that program, we do allow teams of undergrads, as long as they're doing the same project, to apply together. So that process would be basically the same.
So for the interdisciplinary program,
Mm-hmm.
students have to come from different departments?
Ideally from different schools, but definitely different departments. If it's within the same school. As it says on one of our early slides, we give preference to groups from multiple schools. But if basically we have few enough of those, then we will look at proposals with students from different departments within the same school. And I guess this question could come up: does every student need to be from a different school? Like, if there are 4 undergrads, do we need to represent 4 schools? No. Our requirement is at least 2. Yep. So if it's 2 students, that's easy. If it's 4 students, 3 can be from one school, 1 from another. That's fine. No. Other questions? Yeah.
Regarding the continuous enrollment of students, what if they're on study abroad right now, but are back in the winter? Does that still qualify them for this?
If students are on study abroad, my understanding is they are still technically UCI students, which is the definition is active students at UCI, not currently taking classes at UCI. So as long as still an an enrolled student.
Yeah, everything's like done through UCI. So,
Yep,
okay.
yep. So that would still work. Other questions? I want to get through all the questions before we move on to closing out and any potential activity. But as I say, if there are still questions after we're all done, I'll stick around and answer them.
One more question.
Yeah.
Can the undergrads be changed after the proposal is submitted, or
Can the undergrads be
awarded?
changed after the proposal is submitted? And because the undergrads are part of an award,
Yeah.
you can certainly add undergrads to the project who aren't covered in there. If an undergrad is going to be dropped from the program, that's a time to contact us, Cal IT2, whoever's listed on the award email, and say, they're gone now. Does that affect our award? Because it might.
Okay.
But that one's one of those, it depends, we'll deal with it as it comes up, but it's definitely things have significantly changed. How does this affect it?
Right.
Time to ask.
Okay.
So let me move on at this point. Basically, I want to finish with this slide. A couple of things of note. First of all, this QR code on the right is a link to a short survey. And the reason we put that there is we do a lot of presentations during the year. And the only way we know if we're doing them effectively is if you tell us. So if there are things you would like me to cover, if there are things you would like to do differently, or if there are things you think are utterly amazing, which may or may not happen, we invite you to fill out the survey because that'll help us do a better job next time. The other thing I want to point out specifically for this program is the box with the blue heading, Proposal Review Feedback. Next week, we are going to have two 2-hour sessions with members of the Europe staff and folks from the Writing Center. So if you want help with your proposal and or personal statement, sign up for that time, come in, bring them. We can have people look at it and offer feedback that can help you do a better job. The one caveat I always give with this sort of thing is the reminder that as you ask people to look at your proposal or any other documents, you'll receive a lot of feedback that you can then decide how to deal with. The documents you submit are your own. So if somebody says something, I really think you should do this, and you think, what a stupid idea, don't do it. You are in no way bound to include any of the feedback you get. But as with anything, having a second or third set of eyes on it can give you more ideas and have the opportunity to make things better.